Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Right Has Left podcast. I am your host, Roy Garton, and boy, do we have a lot of to talk about today, as we always do on these podcasts, because Trump just gives us so much stuff to chat about, as well as some of the House of Representatives and the Speaker of the House. They're just giving us a lot of material to talk about. So, having said that, let's go ahead and, get into it, because boy, do we have a lot of news. So, first thing that we're going to talk about, of course, is the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Chaos and fear was unleashed by Donald Trump during his Liberation Day trade war, as you're well aware of, that we were talking about earlier. And it's just made him more adamant about his lifelong conviction that the world's greatest economy is a victim of cheating rivals bent on ripping off the United States of America. That's what Trump said. But he is open to trade talks with powers like Japan and Israel, and that's been a little bit of ongoing conversations lately. Currently, Trump has paused higher tariffs to other countries under pressure to do so. As you're well aware of, he was going to put 10% tariffs on almost every piece of land in the world, and he rescinded on that with the exception of China. Now, China, he has increased the tariffs to 145%, and China just did likewise and taxed and put tariffs on everything that's imported to China from the United States. So we've got this game of who's going to blink first is what's really going on. Now, with the other tariffs being paused for 90 days, the stock market, has been going up on good news and back down on bad news and up and down. It's just confusing the world's businesses. And with that tariff at 145% because of the lack of respect that China has shown the other world's market, Trump thinks that's just okay. I don't know where he's going with all this, and as most economists don't either. The president did kind of blink a little bit, if you want to use that terminology, when he rescinded the other tariffs because he saw the stock market was bottoming out. And with China now tripling the tariffs on U.S. imports, we've got this little trade war going on. Now, Trump is also killing the de minimis exemption. Now, let me kind of talk to you a little bit about what that is. The de minimis exemption is where companies like TikTok and Timo, they import a lot of stuff, and it's all Chinese good, but typically when they send these piecemeal things back, it's under $800. So it's this de minimis thing is where they're not taxed. There's no import fees on them. So, and they said they're not going to collect any tariffs with that. So, when you're under the $800 threshold, that's a pretty good thing because you can still buy things without seeing tariffs on them, and you can get them at really good prices, like on the TikTok shop or Timo. Unfortunately, Donald Trump is fully aware of this too, and he said that that's also going to be killed as well. So even if you want to try to buy things under $800, you still are going to get the de minimis thing on it done away with. And what is that? It's basically a Latin word that means non cura. The law does not concern itself with trifles. That's what de minimis means. And it was originally designed to reduce administrative burdens on small products that were imported from overseas that was under the $800 threshold, and they could just get it right through customs and no tariffs, no taxes. But Trump's killing that too, as I just said. So, consumers that could get this kind of stuff via the U.S. mail and small parcels or air cargo, it was pretty cool. That's why they have these really low prices on Timo and the TikTok shop. But that's going to be going away too because he's, as I said, killed that little loophole as well. Now, that is one piece of news that we have been going on. So what else is going on in this world today? How about Mike Johnson and the House of Representatives? Yeah. As you were aware of, the House just passed their version of the budget proposal. The budget does set up a shocking $5.3 trillion in tax cuts or more, mostly occurring over 9 years, since most of the 2017 tax cuts do not expire until 20 2026. Now, that is $1.5 trillion, ladies and gentlemen, more than the cost of the expiring 2017 tax cuts that Senate Republicans are seeking to extend. And the $5.3 trillion figure could still even go higher if Republicans cut Medicaid or other supports that help low-income families that need these things, like SNAP as well. Now, those are under the jurisdiction of the Senate Finance Committee, just so you know. And the budget and tax reconciliation legislation that this budget would put into motion is just one piece of triple threat agenda that the White House and the congressional Republicans are pursuing. The second point is the executive actions that the unlawfully stopped funds that Congress has enacted for public services, which, as you're well aware, has been going on, like with PBS and everything else, and FEMA. Those investments hollow out and politicize the civil service, degrading public services, and they undermine the core government systems, such as those at Social Security Administration, closing all the offices. Although the Social Security just recently said they're going to put back in the phone service for our seniors and those who have disabilities. So that's one good thing. They are putting that back in after they said they were going to cut it. But hundreds of millions of people and businesses are going to be affected by this. Now, the third piece is, which the president is doubling down on, is the sweeping tariffs, which we just talked about, created without any congressional approval, which they're supposed to be, which will cost families with low and moderate incomes hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, because as you know, when things got tariffs on them, they just pass all that on to the consumer. So you're going to pay more at the pump, at the food stores, and at retail. So whatever modest tax cuts the low and middle income are going to get is just minuscule, like $400 as an average. But the upper middle income, the billionaires, boy, they're going to get their tax cuts, which is what's been planned all along. So what the administration is pursuing is really upside down, hurting the people, families, and communities that the president pledged to serve in his campaign speeches, and helping the wealthy. So, these big tax cuts that he's talked about, they are unfortunately just not going to come about. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is really sad. And, with the stocks going up and down and people losing money on their 401ks that they got invested, it's just extremely sad. And I just don't know where we can go with all this when you've got this many things with the budget proposal going on, and then they got to pass it on to the Senate, and that's going to go back to the House. So if there's any good news about this, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, these are proposals. They're working on the budget, even though it's still trillions of dollars in debt, and it's probably going to take a couple years, more or less, for people to really see what's going on here. So when they get the budget in place, if not sooner, because the House has to approve it, the Senate's got to approve it, so they both got to gel, and then the president's got to sign it. So right now with these proposals, they're going back and forth because they don't know how to work all of this stuff out. So to me, that's just kind of funny. Now, what else is going on in the news is now this is kind of funny. Check this out. Marjorie Taylor Greene is back in the news. And some people think she's doing some little funny business with her investments because she's maybe insider trading, even though it's not really been proven. But she's the likeliest member of Congress to thrive in a challenging market. Yet she appears to be one of the few investors to have recorded, yes, significant gains in recent weeks, specifically on March 3rd. On March 3rd, the representative purchased up to $15,000 worth of Dollar General stock, which was one of the few stocks, if any, that actually thrived, at approximate share price of $71.89. On March 7th, Marjorie Taylor Greene executed another trade, also up to $15,000 in size, at $81.84, as uncovered by Finbold's Congressional Trading Radar. Though the second trade initially appeared poorly timed as Dollar General stock halted in its short-lived rally mere days later, subsequent trading led to a significant equity appreciation for her. And so, congressional members aren't supposed to be privy to inside trading, but obviously Marjorie Taylor Greene acted upon it. So what is kind of funny about all of this is the fact is that she took all of her bonds and made a lot of money on that too, treasury bonds. So people are asking, like, how can she get away with all this? Well, that's Marjorie Taylor Greene, and when she knows what Trump's going to be going up to. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is not the only one. There were a lot of people on Trump's cabinet that made a lot of money on this tariff increase. So they knew what was going on. So it's kind of funny that Marjorie Taylor Greene would have some inside knowledge in all this and then act upon it when she knows technically that's kind of illegal. Now, Dollar General shares are changing hands at $92.75, meaning that they rose 29.02% from the first buy and then 13.33% since the second trade. Simultaneously, Dollar General is one of the few stocks, as I mentioned, that hasn't really been affected by Trump's tariffs. Their stock was up 8.89%, so congratulations, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Looks to me like you made some money. Yeah. So, she has the ability to do a lot of things, and engaging in stock trades like this, which is okay. It's legal for anybody to do that, even congressional people. But when you've got some things like inside trading knowledge, which Donald Trump, she knew what he was going to do. Well, that makes things a little sketchy for Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's going to be investigated for that probably. So just kind of want you to have heads up on that. What else is going on in the news? Good news and bad news from the Supreme Court. Yeah. So the United States Supreme Court this past week allowed President Donald Trump to enforce the Alien Enemies Act, which is handing the White House a pretty significant victory that will let immigration officials rely on a sweeping wartime authority to rapidly deport alleged gang members. And the unsigned decision from the court, of course, they're not signing any of this stuff because they're opinions, are one of the most closely watched emergency appeals that Donald Trump has been sending to the Supreme Court. It lets Trump invoke the 1798 law into speed to removals while litigation over the act's use plays out in lower courts. So as you know, Donald Trump is continuing to deport thousands of people. And some of them are U.S. citizens, but he doesn't seem to care about that. Just get them out of here. He thinks they're all crooks, even though they're not. So Donald Trump also, he has been ordered to act upon this other gentleman that was detained in El Salvador. He is a U.S. citizen. The court ordered him to make sure that he does some stuff to get him back over here. So Amy Coney Barrett, who is a member of the court's conservative wing, and she partially dissented on this Aliens Enemy Act. So she's kind of like, in the middle here. The court's actions appears to bar the administration from immediately resuming the flights that last month carried hundreds of migrants to a notorious prison in El Salvador, but Trump's already thumbed his nose at that. He doesn't care. I'm the president. I'll do what I want. The flights came soon after President Donald Trump evoked that Alien Enemies Act for the first time since World War II to justify the deportations under a presidential proclamation, calling the Trendy Aja gang an invading force, which they may or may not be, but he's going everything on executive action. So the Supreme Court did, however, block an order for the Trump administration to return to work thousands of federal employees who were let go in mass firings amid a dramatically downsizing of the federal government. A lower court said he couldn't do that. Supreme Court says, yeah, he can because he has executive action. So, Trump can do whatever he likes, continue this firing. It's so sad, because these, the judge in California ordering that 16,000 probationary employees at 6 federal agencies should be reinstated while this lawsuit plays out because their firings didn't follow federal law. The court's order involved a technical legal assessment of the right of or standing of several nonprofit associations to sue over those firings. But as you know, they went ahead and did it. The Democratic appointees on the federal court are, they're in the minority, so they keep trying to figure out and save some of this stuff, but with the majority being Republican appointed by Trump, and of course they're all going to kiss his hind end and do whatever he wants. There are some things that they still try to follow the Constitution, but it's few and far between, and it's kind of sad because the Supreme Court is a last stop that anybody has that we can do to protect our Constitution. The Supreme Court on Friday also granted the Trump administration's plea to cut hundreds of millions of dollars of teacher training money as part of its anti-DEI efforts. This is another thing that went on. They're going to let Trump go ahead with this DEI thing. Again, it's when a lawsuit is continuing to play out. The justices were split 5-4 with Chief Justice John Roberts joining 3 liberal justices in dissent. That's something. The emergency appeal is among several of the high court is considering in which the Justice Department argues that lower court judges have improperly obstructed President Donald Trump's agenda. Oh boy, my, you poor guy. Again, illegal immigrants could face fines up to $998 a day, just call it $1,000 a day, if they fail to self-deport. This is another thing that Trump put into place. Under plans by Donald Trump, get this, administration's illegal aliens should use the CBP, Customs and Border Protection, home app to self-deport. Just go online and get yourself out of here and leave the country now. That's what Donald Trump wants you to do. Now, if you don't go on and self-report and get yourself out of here and get your butts back to wherever you came from, this will include a fine of $998 a day for every day that illegal aliens overstayed their final deportation order, a senior Department of the Homeland Security official told and was quoted to have said. So go on the app and self-report and then get out of here. President Donald Trump returned to the White House with a renewed pledge to deport millions of undocumented immigrants, responding to a surge in the southwest border crossings. And as you well know now, he's ordered the military to the Texas borders to oversee the border protection. It's no longer really in the hands of the Border Patrol. Our United States military is now running the borders. Boy, like third world countries. This is to accelerate deportations, efforts that are currently constrained by limited resources and detention space. The fines to these illegal aliens, if they are illegal, could detour, just get higher and higher, like to millions of dollars. And the government can now confiscate their property, their land, their homes, if they don't self-deport. Now, this whole law originated from a 1996 law that was enforced in 2018 during President Donald Trump's first term. Now, the Trump administration intends to apply the penalties retroactively for up to 5 years, a move that could lead to fines exceeding $1 million. The Trump administration also is weighing in on the option, as I said, of seizing their property as well, who fail to pay the fines. Like everybody's sitting around with $1 million in their pockets, right, Donald? Yeah, we're not like you. We're not rich. So, the Department of Homeland Security issued a warning about these fines in a March 31st social media post that they were going to be forthcoming. So there you go. I don't know. This stuff is absolutely getting way crazy, and the Supreme Court is just giving Trump anything he wants. So the only good news, as I said, the Supreme Court did state that Donald Trump should do all that they can without signing an order. Keep that in mind. They did not sign the order, but they highly recommended that Kilmer Albero Garcia, which is a Salvadorian national who was deported from the U.S. to a prison in his home country, they believe that the Department of Justice should file another brief with the lower band to try to stall this. Trump's not acting on what the Supreme Court wants to do. So I don't know where this is all going to go. I really don't. So the Supreme Court is the most bizarre Supreme Court that I have ever seen. That is just basically handing Trump 99.9% of whatever he wants without any really real argument. I just don't know. So now let's get on to some lighter news, because this next piece is kind of funny. Check this out. Yes, Donald Trump now has a bust of himself, a gold pin, and he has instructed all of his cabinet members and those loyalists to wear this pin in lieu of the American flag. Can you believe this? So a viral social media claim alleges President Trump has mandated golden lapel pins of his bust for cabinet members and loyalists. Now, this is a rumor. Keep in mind, it's not been a proven fact, but the pin is in fact real. The rumor stemmed from an April 9th, 2025 Substack post about FCC Chairman Brandon Carr wearing this pin, which he was. However, no evidence supports the claim that wearing the pin is mandatory. That's the key thing. It has been proven that Trump's told everybody, you got to wear this in lieu of the American pin, flag pin. So wear this. But a lot of people are wearing it now on his cabinet. So whether it's true or not, we'll just have to see. But see that bust there? Doesn't that look like something from, the Roman era? It's kind of funny, if you ask me. It really is. So that is one thing that's going on. Now, the other thing that's going on in the news, we have a lot of stuff, don't we? Is the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, or the SAVE Act. This has just been in the news, and what it basically is for people to vote. If this passes, it passed the House. Again, it's got to go to the Senate, and whether the Senate's going to actually, agree to this is to be seen. The votes don't seem to be there in the Senate for this. But the SAVE Act basically says that if you are to vote, you need to have proof that you're an American citizen. That'd be a passport or your birth certificate. Now, what is the sticky point about all this is a lot of women, this is going to affect them because, on their birth certificate, they have their maiden name and they got married, so their driver's license says something else. So how do they prove they're American citizen if their birth certificate has a different name? And they walk up to the polls and they show this and they go, well, that's not matching. You're not an American citizen, are you? Get out of here. So this affects basically millions of women. Also, millions of people don't have access to their birth certificate. So what are they supposed to do? Now, some of the people say, well, the driver's license with the new little blue star on the side, that most people, in fact, all the states now have met the deadline that you're going to have that little gold star, which means that you've shown more documentations of saying who you are. That took effect April 1st. So if that's there, that might be acceptable. But the way the law is written, no, it's not. You got to bring in a passport or birth certificate to prove who you are if you're going to vote in federal elections. So the states are saying, well, the driver's license with the star on it should work. But this has become a huge sticking point, this Voter Eligibility Act or the SAVE Act. It's pissed a lot of people off, and I can see why. It's just getting out of hand is really what it is. More and more things are going on with the Trump administration and Republicans about all of this, and basically women are becoming second place. More and more and more, voting is basically about white privileged white people. That's where it's at. Women and anybody else, even if you're of Latino descent or Hispanic descent, you better really prove that you're an American citizen, or you can't vote. You need to get out of here. So, and it's crazy. Also, Donald Trump, for his birthday, is planning a military-style parade in the D.C. area. So tanks and trucks and military people and marches and bands and everything else can go right down Pennsylvania Avenue as he sits in the viewing stand, smiling and making sure that they all pay attention to him. Now he loves the military, but he'd rather play golf when dead soldiers are coming in from Afghanistan and the families are there, and he can't even make a phone call or pay tribute to them. He's down playing in a golf tournament on his own property in Miami, but he does want the military to march in front of him on his birthday on Washington, D.C. This is all, of course, at taxpayers' expense, and tanks, of course, are going to tear up the streets of Pennsylvania Avenue with their tracks. But that's okay. I want to see a parade, by God. Now, again, Trump has denied that he has asked for a military parade on his birthday. He thinks they're cool because, again, China does it and Russia does it for Putin. So why can't the military march down Pennsylvania Avenue from him? Because he's just as cool as they are. His ego demands it. So we'll have to see if, in fact, the parade materializes. If it does, you and I are going to be paying for it. So there you go. All this stuff going on, folks. Yeah, isn't it absolutely crazy? Let's all have a parade. The infrastructure to Washington and the cost to the American taxpayer, about $90 million is what they estimated the parade would cost if you're going to do that. So. These things are crazy, and we're going to start winding this stuff up. So a couple other little tidbits of information here that's going on. I got to find this little picture here because I want to start talking on a local level. Now, as most of you know, I am from Wyoming, and there's some breaking news in Wyoming too. Where is this little... There it is. That's what I want to show you. Yes, the beautiful Teton Range in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I grew up there. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, good old Donald Trump just cut a $21.25 million federal grant to fund conservation easements in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. It's frozen, ladies and gentlemen, as the Trump administration and the U.S. Department of Agriculture reviews grant fundings that have been allocated by the Biden administration. So what's going on here is the fact of the matter is anything that Joe Biden and the Democrats have done to help our environment and our national parks and our Forest Service, screw you. The Democrats have done all this, and by God, I am going to freeze it and review it because we're not going to spend that kind of money. Now, this grant had been awarded over a year and a half ago for this conservation easement. And I know for all of you who have been to Grand Teton National Park and the Yellowstone area how beautiful it is. And you want to see that country and that land preserved, I'm sure, right? You don't want to see oil well derricks put on it or another Trump hotel put in front of the Grand Tetons, do you? So this is what this money was used for, to help, with this conservation project. So the $41 million, though, that was awarded to the Jackson Hole Land Trust in partnership with Grand Teton National Park has been frozen. Also, it was going to help the Wyoming Game and Fish Department and the Wyoming Stock Growers Land Trust and the Wind River Tribal Buffalo Initiative. Yes, as you know, we're getting over to Riverton on the Wind River Indian Reservation. All of that was going to be there. 20,000 acres of private land in Teton Park, Fremont, Sublette, and Lincoln counties and Hot Spring counties was where all that money was supposed to go to, just not the national parks. As you know, about 97% of the land in the state of Wyoming is all federal lands in one way or another, be it national park, Forest Service, BLM, or other types of lands, the elk refuge. So a lot of land in Wyoming is federal land, also Native American tribal lands too. So, they want to protect all that, but there goes the money. So it's again pretty sad. Jackson Hole Land Trust, which I actually am familiar with, I remember when it was created, when I lived there. The grant was awarded through the Regional Conservation Partnership is how that was put together. So it's again sad how all this money is being frozen. Trump has also laid off thousands of U.S. Forest Service workers and Park Service employees. He told the park superintendents, just get creative and figure out how you're going to put people on this summer when people want to go visit the national parks. And of course, a lot of people saying, I'm not going to go to the national parks if I can't get services there. How are you going to keep the campgrounds open and all that? So, get ready for your summer vacation to figure out where you want to go. What else are we going to talk about here really quickly? We are going to talk about FEMA. Yeah. So what's going on with FEMA is this right here. Donald Trump also has frozen $10 million for actually more than that. I think it's like $140 million on FEMA. They were going to use this money to help for preventive purposes and for the hurricane season. As you know, Donald Trump wants to do away with FEMA. He doesn't think it's necessary, so he froze all the money of that. And a lot of that was going to Texas and a lot of the Gulf state areas, and as the state of Florida. And they were going to use this to help with getting ready for the hurricane season. And that money has all been frozen. So there you go. Another thing that's going on in the state of Florida that's kind of funny is Governor Ron DeSantis. He has gotten himself in a little bit of hot water. Now, he recently allocated $10 million from a state settlement last year for the charitable arm of a welfare initiative, which was led by his wife, who he wants to run for governor when his term is up, First Lady Casey DeSantis. The money directed to the Hope Florida Foundation came from a pre-suit settlement involving the State Agencies for Healthcare Administration, or AHCA, and was not publicly disclosed at the time. So the Tampa Bay Times, Miami Herald, Tallahassee bureaus, and Politico all first reported this, so the news got a hold of it as to why did you give her all this money? And again, where's the transparency that you're supposed to have as governor? Even his congressional staff, the Senate and the House in the state of Florida, are kind of raising their eyebrows like, where is all of this going? So you've got that in Florida. You've got FEMA money being taken away by Trump because he doesn't like DeSantis anyway. So what are you going to do about that? Is basically what he's saying. So to sum this all up, with that, going back to this FEMA thing real quick, it's about $1 billion between all the states that were supposed to get this FEMA money for hurricane preventiveness, and $133 million that was supposed to go to Florida, and I said 41. It's actually $133 million. So there you go. So there you have it, this week's edition of The Right Has Left. I know it was a lot of information. A lot of stuff goes on this past week, and this is what gives me all this material from my podcast. I just get so much stuff, and I like to go over it all and kind of pick it apart so you, the viewers, can maybe a little bit better understand what's going on in layman's terms. And it's just absolutely crazy. And I will continue to talk about things going on in the state of Florida as well as my home state of Wyoming when it's not need to. So there you go. Until next week, this is Roy Garten. Thank you for joining me on the Right as Left podcast. Until next time, try to have a good week. Take care.